Okay, so welcome everyone. It's really good to see you all. A fairly full shrine room today. Okay, so let's start like we did last week by saluting the shrine. If you'd like to stand up. If you're new to Buddhism, this is what we do traditionally to start any Buddhism or meditation session. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Namah. Okay, yeah, really good to see you all, really good, and I can't see the people in the reception room, but let's just say really good to see you all as well. It's always odd because I have to look at the camera and actually you're just there. Welcome to you in the reception room. So this is the second week of the meditation challenge. We're challenging you to meditate every day and to come to the centre, the London Buddhist Centre, at least once a week to be supported in your meditation. So what I'm doing in these series of 4 meditation masterclasses is exploring what you could call the well-lived life, or even the best-lived life. It's got much more Buddhist technical terms than that, but that's what it's getting at. Last week we explored integration, and I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. Today we'll move on. And those of you who were here last week know that for me personally, I'm speaking very much from quite a difficult place, in as much as my mother died at the end of last year, and actually I just had the funeral yesterday. So I came back on the train yesterday and rather exhausted, and I'm not sure how I am today. Feelings are odd things, aren't they? I'm definitely, something's going on, but it's sort of below the level of feeling in a certain sense. So that means that I'm looking at the life I've led. I've been practicing Buddhism for the last 35 years, something like that. In terms of the steps or stages of a well-lived life, a life that can stand next to death, that can be witnessed by death. When your beloved mother dies, in my case, or when a friend dies or a parent dies, when death touches you, especially when it touches you so closely, the whole of your life is backlit by the fact of death. Yeah. So everything, a genuine life, a genuine human life, needs to be a life in which being backlit by death actually illuminates value. It doesn't illuminate us just being, caught up in mental arguments or in self-pity or in showing off, or all the silly things we human beings do, and we all do them. I do them and you do them. But if you do them standing next to the fact of death, they're very completely irrelevant, point missing and time wasting. Yeah. So the great fact of life is the fact of death, and our job in human life is to live a life that can stand next to death, that can be witnessed by death. Yeah. So last week I talked primarily what Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of this movement, talks in terms of integration. It's not perhaps the best word. I increasingly think of it as non-fragmentation, where you're unified, you're whole, you're not fragmented. And by when we're fragmented, it means that we're fragmented very often against ourselves. A part of us wants to do this and a part of us wants to do the opposite of this. We polarize with ourselves and create fragments of ourselves that are in difficult relationship to each other. So the first great task of a well-lived life is to become whole, to become, as I said last week, a sovereign individual, to become someone who's really living their life in terms of value, a life that can be witnessed by death. Yeah. We will next week be getting on to things like spiritual death, seeing through the self, the death of self, of non-self. And somebody last week was saying, well, what about non-self? And I was saying, well, you can't even think about that yet, because you'll be thinking about it from a fragmented, alienated, overly intellectual point of view. Yeah? Even our questions about who am I, what is the meaning of life in the face of death, if you're fragmented, you'll just get fragmented, broken answers. Yeah? You need to go back to a unification of the body and mind in wholeness. Yeah? So that's what I talked about last week, and then this week we'll move on to what we can then do as we are no longer fragmented. Yeah? And that non-fragmentation means particularly, I think, taking responsibility for your mind. Yeah? Really, really owning your mind, knowing yourself, that great matter of know thyself. That's what this first stage represents. Yeah? Is really owning your mind, owning your life, knowing yourself, not projecting it onto your partner, your parents, the state, any section of society that you'd like to blame for your mind, but actually taking complete ownership of your mind. Now that's very, very difficult to do. I could say much more about it, but I suggest that I'm going to be leading a course called Life with Full Attention on the 15th of February for 8 weeks. And that will be particularly exploring that phase of spiritual life. So I'd very much recommend you come and join me on that. That would be an obvious thing to do after this. But let's start by doing some of that work of integration and unification by doing a bit of meditation. So setting yourself up as comfortably as you can. Probably only so comfortable you can get in here as it stands. But. And then when you're ready, closing your eyes. As soon as you closed your eyes, bring your attention into your body. But even our body can be an idea that we've got. So you're just trying to open up to the felt sense of your body. So you can feel the weight of your body on the cushions. You can feel your feet on the ground, your knees on the ground if you're sitting on the floor. So this non-fragmentation, this integration, this wholeness starts with just opening up to your body sensations. Something as completely simple as that. Your body is not an idea, it's not a theory, it's not a question, it's not an image. It's a directly felt perception. And then see if you can soften your face. You're not using your eyes at the moment, so you don't need to screw up your eyes or furrow your brow. You don't need to clench your jaw. See if you can let your face be completely soft. And then bring your awareness into your shoulders. And very often we're gripping with our shoulders, and we do that habitually, automatically, without noticing it. So just see if you can soften your shoulders. And the way to do that is just to open up to whatever sensations you feel there, even if that's a bit numb, a bit nothing. And just imagine your shoulders releasing. So it's like your awareness is calming your body down, quietening you down. So you can almost imagine your shoulders dropping down your back. And then taking your awareness into your belly. And very often we're gripping in the belly. We're holding on in the belly, and we don't mean to do that. It's just habitual and automatic. But it affects our mind, it affects our sense of ourselves. So see if you can soften the belly. Again, you do that by feeling the belly, feeling any discomfort in the belly, trying not to react to that discomfort. Just imagining the belly calming down, quietening down. body, calming your mind, opening your mind to your body. And just see if you can bring your attention into your thighs, the large muscles of your thighs. And they're very often habitually braced as if we're preparing to move. And that again affects our mind, affects our sense of ourself. So see if you can soften your thighs. So your whole body is settling down, calming down. You can open up to any discomfort in the body. You don't need to worry about it. It's just the weather of the body, and you can embrace that. And just have this thought of your body calming down, quietening down. And opening up to the sounds around you, the sounds in the room, and the sounds out there on the Roman road. And that's all part of your experience, your body sensations, sounds around you. This is a way to become integrated. This is a way to become whole. So when you're ready, opening your eyes and sitting out of your meditation, we'll leave these for later on. Okay, so I'll say a little bit more about this. Well, I'll say a little bit about this next stage of this well-lived life that we're trying to dedicate ourselves to. Then we'll do another short meditation, just a short one, and then we'll try and have a cup of tea, which, like last week, will be a challenge for all concerned. We're going to have little pipettes eventually where we just get 3 drops as you walk out the try room. So yes, on the basis of this sort of self-ownership, do you see how you need to know yourself and own yourself? On the base, and that's not easy at all, actually, and it's not something that you master and then move on from. You have to keep going back to it. On the basis of that, you need to contribute to your life and to the lives of those around you. That's the next stage. Maitreyabandhu calls it the stage of positive emotion, but that, like all terms, it has to be taken in the right spirit. There's a lot more to it than that, and I can't explain it all. I went back to a day or two before my mother's funeral so that I could go back to the house and all its objects. Objects are strange things, aren't they? They're like planets around a sun. And when the sun dies, planets exist for a bit longer and then they gradually die. And soon I'll need to bring my mother's clothes back and give them to the op shop down the road and so on. But mainly I wanted to be there and walk around the fields in a small town I came from. And what I was thinking, is there anything to say today? And the first thing actually that comes to mind as the first stage of positive emotion, and this is the darker side of it, I'm afraid, is forgiveness. Yeah. Once we know ourselves, once we own our own life, we can start to forgive others. Yeah. One of my fears about contemporary life, and I don't know that much about contemporary life, but I fear that it's becoming more and more unforgiving, and more a place where people can't make mistakes. And if people can't make mistakes, they can't be human. So it's vital to learn how to forgive. But you see, if you're not integrated, if you don't know yourself, you can be doing that in a fragmented, distorted way, and that will bite you later on. Yeah. But just walking around the town I grew up in, I left there when I was probably 19 or something like that, perhaps even a bit later, really. Each place, each road, each street have all these memories, some of them good, some of them really not very good at all. It's easy for old rivalries, old dislikes, old antipathies to resurface again. And the first great practice of positive emotion, to call it this stage, is to forgive. And that's something one needs to keep on doing, forgiving other people. It doesn't mean forgetting. Like one of the big issues in my life, just to be terribly personal, is my relationship with my brothers was very difficult. My brothers were very cruel to me when I was a child. I got 3 older brothers, and they still actually feel very, very bad about it. But I was very struck around the funeral how I love my brothers now, and for me, I've been forgiving is too grand a word, because they need to also forgive me for things. It's not as if I'm sort of on high forgiving them for being bad and I'm this innocent, pure soul. I am not, and nor are you. They don't exist. They've never existed, those people. They're just from storybooks. So I need to forgive them, they need to forgive me, but I also need to keep forgiving people that I want to polarize with, blame and so on, yeah. Particularly people you want to blame. So when you start to collect yourself and unify yourself and take responsibility for yourself in a healthy way, you can properly forgive people. Forgiving means just the letting go of the instinct to retaliate. As soon as you feel hurt by someone, you put it in a little bank account and you want to pay back. Very, very deep instinct to retaliate. The revenge instinct runs very, very deeply through us. And one of the things of a well-lived life is a letting go of the revenge instinct. It serves no one's attempt to blame and recriminate and feel vengeful. It just destroys your own life. The Buddha said that when we hate someone, it's like reaching your hand into a hot fire to pick up a burning piece of coal to throw at someone. So your intention is to hurt them, but the very intention of hurting is hurting you. And if you don't believe, it's not a sort of theory, if you don't believe that, the next time that you're criticising someone, blaming someone, feeling indignant about someone in your mind, feeling hard done by someone in your mind, ask yourself, do I feel happy and well just now? You are not. However justified you feel, and we all feel justified in our resentments and hatreds, we all put ourselves as the hero of our own life, with these awful forces of darkness all around us, as if that wasn't us as well, sort of thing. We're the goody and they're the baddies. So the first thing in life is to practice forgiveness, and that's a practice that we need to take up in a well-lived life, and that's part of this stage of positive emotion, to forgive, and to keep forgiving, which basically means keep letting go of the instinct to retaliate. Yeah, that doesn't mean silly things like just thinking it was all fine, but you're trying to stay in the realm of something genuinely helpful for all parties, including yourself, not in this sort of awful, vengeful, cancelling kind of attitude that's becoming sort of written into our culture. So that's the external practice. The internal practice I want to really talk about in this stage, and I'll say that the positive side after the tea break. There will be a positive side, folks, to positive emotion. I'm not in the positive emotion state at the moment. And that is forbearance. It goes along with forgiveness, forbearance. So I think forgiveness is a pro-social emotion. It's one of those emotions we have, like generosity, that's about other people. You can't really forgive yourself, I don't think. What you can do is forbear. You can feel things richly and deeply. There are still many things in my life that I regret. Of course, with my mother's death, I was looking at a little diary where she writes another quiet day, which is a euphemism for nobody came today, and I was on my own. And then that makes me, did I go up to Henley and Arden enough? All those things that you regret. I don't think it's a question of I need to forgive myself for that. I just need to open up to any remorse I feel. I need to allow myself to feel the pains and difficulties of life without reacting to them. And you need to do that. If you don't do that, your life will go badly wrong, because all sorts of difficult things will happen to you. And if you can't forgive, and if you can't forbear, if you can't be patient with those things, and patience in Buddhism is kshanti, which is very much associated with love. If you can't do that, you'll inevitably want to blame and opinionate and so on. And those things are trivial in compared to death, blaming and giving your opinions. Really, really, really trivial. They're of nothing. They count as nothing. So we need to cultivate this sort of forbearance, and that starts, there's so much I could say about it, but that starts with the body again. It starts with being able to feel discomfort without reacting to it. It sounds so easy, being able to feel discomfort without reacting to it. But when it's, my brother at the speeches yesterday making some bad jokes about me, or whether it's a painful back, or a partner who's gone off with somebody else and has just told you, it's this forbearance, is this openness, this willingness to feel life, really. And life has got a lot of pain in it. There's no way around that. It's how you respond to pain that's crucial. You won't be able to have a life without pain. Even the Buddha, right at the end of his life, was talking about how painful his body was and asking his friend to massage his shoulders. But the difference was that he didn't own that pain, and this is mine, it's happening to me, why is it happening to me? It's just pain in life. And what a well-lived life is about opening to life, because all we know just now is we're not dead, and that death is going to happen very soon. So let's just open to life, and that does mean opening to discomfort in the body and to discomfort in life. So let's again just do a little bit of that. We're just getting a bit of a taster of these stages before we can really explore them properly. But let's practice a little bit of forbearance. Yeah? So let's sit in meditation again. So this is a crucial thing we need to learn in our life, is how do we feel discomfort without reacting to it with stories and narratives that only make our discomfort worse. That's what we mean by forbearance. So see, first of all, closing your eyes once again. Again, feeling the weight of your body on the cushions in the chair. Feeling your backside on the cushions or your backside on the chair. Your feet on the floor. And once again, softening your eyes. Softening your brow and your jaw. If you can let go of your shoulders again, and you can just imagine letting them go. Again, softening your belly. So noticing if you're gripping in your belly. You're trying to learn this difficult art of just opening up to body sensations rather than being stuck in thought. And what I'd like us to do now is just bring our attention to an uncomfortable part of the body. And when we feel discomfort, we feel threatened by it. Makes us want to get away from it that makes us want to feel aversive to it. And those things make the discomfort worse. So see if you can just take your mind into an area of discomfort and let yourself feel it without a narrative about it, without predictions about it. Just see if you can open up to it and welcome it. It's just the weather of your body just now. So just see if you can open up to that. Bring your attention into an area of discomfort. If your mind goes away, that's all right. Just bring it back to an area of discomfort. See if you can forbear that. See if you can be patient with it, which is a kind of lovingness. And then coming back to the weight of your body on the cushions or the chair. Feeling the support of the chair or the cushion. Okay, so we're going to now try. Okay, I'll say a little bit more about this stage of positive emotion, and then we'll finish with another meditation. So you could say the first stage of integration is about knowing your mind, yeah, and owning your mind. That's easy to say, and it's a very deep task, owning your mind and knowing your mind. Yeah. What we usually do is we put our mind, we mix up our mind with the world. We mix up our mind with other people, with events, in politics, with all sorts of things. So the first stage of a well-lived life, a life that can stand next to death and feel and be honourable in that, is that you know your mind, you own yourself, you live from yourself, not from some handy ideology that you've sort of taken on without noticing it, not from the sort of things necessarily your parents said to you before you were 7, that you start to actually live from your own value. Well, it don't need to be your own value, but you live from value. The more you live from value, you can be witnessed by your own death, yeah, because you've lived your life in a way that's appropriate to death. I can't remember which psychologist it was, but he said that love was the only reasonable emotion, in which he meant that it's the only emotion that really fits life and death. The rest are just sort of silly distractions, really. So the first stage is knowing your mind. You could say the second stage of positive emotion is protecting your mind. Yeah, and that's a very deep matter. So I've already said that we need to protect ourselves from unforgiveness, from feeling those feelings of rancor, those feelings of being put down, those feelings of being overlooked, which I've known people kind of live their life through. Difficult emotions, if you're not careful, they become what you're doing. You can't forgive your mother, or you can't forgive your ex-partner, or you can't forgive your boss, or you can't forgive a certain group of the population. And that's not in your interest at all. Yeah, it's not in anybody's interest. So we need to sort of protect the mind from unforgiveness, from rancor, from holding on to resentments, because holding on to resentments in the face of death is absurd and a waste of your life. Yeah, and it's a shame to waste your life, a tragedy to waste your life. And how we practice that in practice is we practice forbearance. We learn how to experience the pains of life without making them worse by trying to solve them without enough self-knowledge or by trying to push them away. Usually when we experience pain, our instinct is immediately to push it away. And that instinct, completely natural to us, not our fault, but it makes pain worse. Yeah? Almost inevitably, it makes pain worse. Especially when that pain is mental pain. Yeah? It'll make it worse. So one of the things we need to do is have the courage to open up to discomfort more. And as today I've said, that needs to start in the body. Everything in the Buddhist life starts in the body and grows from the body. So it grows from the ground up, not in a fragmented, distorted and one-sidedly cognitive way, which our society is pushing us towards more and more. We don't realise, I think, how odd our society is, how really odd it is. Like just having my mother's funeral and trying to work with my family around that funeral. People's attitude to life and death is really odd. It's like a job that they have to get done rather than a great moment in life to live through. It's like something that needs to be organised and got through. You know, it is a very, very odd response to death and a very odd response to life. We don't realise how strangely cerebral and abstracted and fragmented we are. And then if we try and live a valuable life from that place of fragmentation, we'll just create more kinds of fragmentation. But the main way of protecting your mind, you know, forgiveness and forbearance are, as it were, the darker side of that. But actually even that won't work unless you do the second thing, which is the main way you protect your mind is to cultivate love and generosity. The Buddhist metaphor for this is that if you remember those, if you did woodwork, you had these joints and they have a bit of doweling in the middle to hold the joint together. If that doweling is rotten, the only way to change it is to knock in a new doweling. Yeah? So you knock out the old by putting in a new one. So you can't just get rid of the difficult. That won't work. It actually draws you into the difficult more and more without you realizing it. If you're doing that without enough awareness, even your intention to forgive and forbear will be drawing you into difficulty. The only real way to protect your mind from those habitual resentments and petty rivalries and ambition. I mean, ambition is another one of those terrible traps that we get into. I was talking to my nephew at the funeral yesterday, and he's now earning a lot of money, and I was saying, well, just be careful of that, because that's a trap if you're not careful. It can destroy value. So the only way to knock out that doweling is to put in another doweling, and that is the doweling really of love. Yeah, especially I suppose going through my mother's death, everything it seemed to me came down to love, and that the need to love, and the need to love in difficulty, and the need to protect yourself through that. Otherwise, you'll be drawn into, indignation, self-pity, resentment, spite, feeling hard done by, all of which are quite natural, and they're not your fault, they're not my fault. They're just not a good use of your life. There's so much in this life to love and appreciate, and if we're not careful, one of the reasons is because our brain is mainly wired for threat, remember? So your brain is evolutionarily developed to particularly notice things that you perceive as a threat, even if they're not. So you'll notice threat very, very strongly, and you'll tend to get wedded to threat very, very easily for good evolutionary reasons, because that's how you'd survive. But if you're not careful, your life becomes about managing threat. Meanwhile, we live in a beautiful world that we are destroying, but a beautiful world. We have people around us who are worthy of our love and our generosity. There is so much we can do. Our human minds are unbelievably, miraculously capable of creating the good as well as the bad. So the only real protection of your mind is to cultivate the good. Yeah? Is to really try to quite consciously draw your mind towards the things that aren't threatening. The love that you do get. Your parents are imperfect, mine were, and you're imperfect. But they've loved you as well as they can. Your friends are imperfect, but they've loved you as well as they can. Yeah, you're surrounded, and I'm surrounded by love, by beauty, by value. And if we're not careful, we'll just be stuck to the screen, giving our opinion about party politics, which at the moment of death will have no consequence at all. Everyone at the moment of death wants to say the person was kind, they were loving. Every time I met them, they listened to me, they empathised with me. That's the person you want. And money and success and status will not get you there. Only your mind will get you there. It won't. It doesn't mean that those things are anti to cultivating your mind, but they won't do it themselves. So what I'd like to do is, in a moment, we'll do another meditation, a little bit longer meditation, in which we quite consciously cultivate the good, and especially this sense of, and this is all a bit personal, I'm afraid, it's bound to be a bit personal, but the sense of being beloved, yeah? It's very, very important to feel loved, so that you can love. You see again how you need integration first. You need to come back to yourself first and build up from there. It's very, very important to feel that you are loved by people, because that means that you can then love people. That's why it's important. Yeah? And we'll meditate on that in a moment. But yes, outside of meditation, it means really focusing on the beautiful, giving time for the beautiful in the natural world, in works of art, in other people. It means really being generous to other people. Really fostering the good, because it's the only way you'll protect your mind. I keep noticing it with myself again and again. If I'm not doing that, my mind, and I'm quite a pessimistic temperament by nature, my mind slides just without me quite noticing back to a sort of slightly pessimistic, what's the point, life has got no meaning, people can be horrid, people can be, and I can be, and you can be, slides back to that very, very easily without you quite noticing. So the thing to do is to keep on remembering that is your great task, especially in this stage, is to love, is to forgive, is to be a source of value to those around you. Because what you want, and you want this very deeply, is that when you go back to your flat today, when you go back to your home or your partner or your friends, that they're intrinsically pleased to see you. They're delighted to see you because you're a source of good for them. It's a very, very different face they've got when they're really pleased to see you than the face they've got when they're managing you. They think, okay, let's put a brave face on this. You don't want that face, actually. What you want is people intrinsically pleased to see you because they love you, and the only way to be loved, I'm afraid, is to love. It's the only way of doing it. You can't demand to be loved. That is well, you can try if you want to. Do what you like, for heaven's sake. But it won't work. Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll do a meditation, and we'll do the meditation that I've been doing for the last wee while now. And it's been influenced by reading this huge long poem about a Ouija board. I don't know what I feel about a Ouija board. I don't have any opinions about it. I've never done it. But the interesting thing for me in it was, in this poem about the Ouija board, one of the spirits say, now you know what heaven is. Heaven is what surrounds the living. Yeah. And I was really, as a metaphor, I was really taken by that. And it is a metaphor, obviously. But heaven is what surrounds the living. And in this Ouija board poem, all these, his father, he talks to his father, he talks to his friend's mother who's just died, he talks to W.H. Auden, he talks to all, and they all chat. They're just like chatting. It's not very profound. They don't say anything deep. They just chat and say, oh God, they say stuff like they did in life. So what I've been doing to cultivate this sort of sense of feeling beloved so that you can love, it's not an end in itself, but it's a very, very important beginning, is I just think, okay, here I am, heaven is what surrounds the living. Now don't worry about heaven or that, they're just words. People go, they're just words, all they are. They're not going to sort of weirdly change your biological structure or something. So you just take up that idea, heaven is what surrounds the living. Now on the Ouija board you have the planchette, which is sometimes just a cup that you turn upside down. So you have your hand on it. I only know this by reading about it. I've never done it. So my metaphor for that is, okay, so you start with this very simple sense of your physical presence, like the cup. Yeah, there you are. You're in this life. You're embodied. You feel things. You see things. You taste things. You touch things. All of that's real up to a point. And then around that is heaven, as well, is the dead. Yeah. So what I've been doing, and this is long before my mother's death, is bringing to mind the figures in my life who I felt, who loved me. Yeah? My grandmother, who died when I was 8, but she sort of I was her favourite, and it's sort of obvious I was. And I used to run round and colour in things and things like that. I just I can't hardly remember her really, but I remember this feeling of that lovely feeling of safety when you go, and the Arga was on. It was really dark. She had these 2 great big Alsatians. I don't know why you need to know that, but there's a lot of fur around, and the smell of the coal and everything. I don't know. So in that, you just try to remember that sense of I felt utterly loved there and secure, and I could play. And my grandmother just sort of thought I was great. That was great. Bring her back. And I bring to mind my father, who his presence in my life is very strong. He died. Actually, my mother died, as I said last week, on the 17th of December, which is the 27th anniversary of my father's death. Which is, I had this weird feeling that she was waiting somehow for Dad to come back, and he'd have to come back on his on the anniversary. at one point she was dying and she said, I don't know what to do. And I said, I don't either. Ask Dad. Because Dad's done it, so Dad will come and help you. I had this sense of my father coming back and helping my mother out of this life, which he had very big hands, my father, big workman's hands, and had this sort of strange sort of idea, vision that my mother was in a little boat, and you get there a bit worrying when you try and get out, they sort of tip, and my father was on the quay and just put his hand and just pulled her up, because he needed into safety. And so you can, I don't know the status of these things, and I don't need to know. Actually, increasingly, I feel absolutely sure. Not absolutely, I don't feel absolutely about anything, but I feel sure enough that life doesn't end with death. I think that's a stupid, ignorant idea that we've taken to be a belief. A fact. It's just a belief that we all have, and it's a stupid belief. Anyway, moving right along. So what we'll do for what I want us to do, just bring to mind all those people in your life, either alive or dead, and the dead are as just alive as anybody, and they love you, and that you feel safe with them. I don't mean safe in this modern silly sense. I mean you just don't feel any threat. You feel and know that you're loved, and you can just be yourself, and you don't need to even try to be anybody because they just love you. So bring to mind those people. Try if you can get in contact with that sense of being beloved. And that will mean that when you leave the class today, you're a bit more fit to be able to love people. Yeah? So let's do that. Okay, so when you're ready, closing your eyes. And this practice, like any practice, starts with the direct sense of your body. That's where we live from. That's our home. So see if you can feel the weight of your body on the cushions or the chair. So really feeling the contact, your feet on the floor, the backside on the cushions or the chair. And once again, softening your face and your eyes. So you can relax your brow. Soften your jaw. See if you can release your shoulders, or just imagine your shoulders letting go. Calming the body. Just having this sense of your weight settling down more and more. See if you can soften your belly so that more and more of your weight drops down through the cushions and the chair. So without trying too hard, without making a big deal of it, see if you can just stay a bit in contact with the weight of your body. And then just the kind of easy, non-pressurized way, just bring to mind anyone, living or dead, who you felt beloved by, who you felt is on your side, who you felt is just sort of likes you, loves you, encourages you, is pleased to see you. Whoever in your life you feel in that relationship to, see if you can bring them to mind. They're here now. They're not long gone, they're just here in your mind. And you can open up to them. So just move between being aware of your body, feeling your body, and just bringing to mind anyone in your life who has loved you, who's cared for you. And they're here now, in your mind. And come back again to your body, feeling the weight of your body on the chair, on the cushions. On the floor. Tuning into the sounds around you. Okay, so that's about all we've got time for today. In a moment I'll once again direct how we leave the room. Yes, do make a donation. It's, what we're trying to do here is create a culture of generosity where people just give, they give their time, they give their energy, they give their appreciation, they give their money, so that we don't have to charge, so we don't have to get into all that, which again, so crummy, isn't it, all that charging stuff? Just at the funeral yesterday, I noticed that the vicar charged. Anyway, so I'm not charging, it won't go to me, but yeah, do give a donation. And do come back next week, we'll carry on. So we've looked very, very briefly at this great stage of integration, then we'll go on to come on today to positive emotion. And next week we'll look at spiritual death or insight, and then beyond that even. So do keep coming back, even though I know it's very crowded, but